Hi, and welcome to this episode of Passport to Payments. I'm Mikkis from Enfuce, and in this episode we have Lana from Stockholm Fintech joining us.
Thank you very much for having me here. I'm Lana Brandorne, as you said. 2018, we started Stockholm Fintech Week. That's now been growing into the flagship event in Nordics, based in Stockholm. We have activities throughout the year with events and various engagements with the startups and investors and partners. That's just one thing I do. I also work with Goose Valley Ventures, raising capital to invest in pre-seed seed stage fintech and helping out an NGO that fights financial crime globally. So it's very complementary, very different, very fun, and kind of fitting together.
That's incredible. Super interesting. And in your role as Stockholm Fintech, you're close to the ground within especially the Swedish fintech space. What are startups and scale-ups most focused on solving in this space right now?
Yeah, I'm really looking at the fintech from broad perspective.
Yes.
I think the things that have been there and continue to strengthen is embedded finance, payments, cross-border transactions that happening. Also with the PSD3 coming, that's been putting the open banking back on the topic. Besides that, I think the fraud and scam is increasing, so solutions being developed in that space is interesting and something that we look at. And you can't forget the AI, it's the big buzzword. And of course, the established players are experimenting, and we see a new wave of fintech companies being started based on this kind of automation possibility, trying to find a use case where there was a lot of companies started in 21, 20, and then kind of 23, 24 was really quiet time for founders.
That's true.
And now we can see this like uptick that is, I think, driven partly by the AI wave. There's one more thing that I thought that was kind of interesting, like in terms of the infrastructure, like those players take time to establish, but once they build up the infrastructure, they become more prominent. And if you see around here, what's the difference between the Nordics or Sweden is, you can see so many crypto and stablecoin companies present, while maybe in Swedish market specifically is a little bit still held back by that, and would be nice to see some more of it also there.
That's a very interesting point, how we're obviously in Amsterdam at Money 2020 now, and we see a lot of that, and the AI boom is there. Are there certain differences in what you would see at something like Nordic Fintech Week, Stockholm Fintech Week? What would you see there compared to here?
I think by large, there's definitely similarities, still a European market. I think there was like a trip with some entrepreneurs in San Francisco quite recently, and the speed at trying the new things is much higher there still. And you would want to bring the same kind of urgency here in Nordics or Stockholm. I'm not sure how it's in Amsterdam, but Sweden can take that sweet time, especially if you're trying to sell to banks, which we all know is a long and painful process.
Your words, not mine.
Yes, totally my words. I stand by them.
No, but you're absolutely right. It is a different, and I think we want it to be a proven thing before we jump the gun in the Nordics for something.
There's
like
one
that.
more area which we invested in a company called Complot. It's an Estonian company, a regtech tool, and I think that in general, like any software that you're trying to build, you need to have the compliance at heart of it. And I know Enfuce is doing great work on that front as well, helping your customers to make sure that everything is compliant. And I think in that area, regtech area in general, is also quite growing.
For sure. And I think the Nordic, it's in our nature, the credibility and the approach that we take to compliance, especially for Enfuce, is at the forefront. It guides us in what we do. Going to our final question, as someone who connects so many different players, startups, regulators, big banks, what's one thing that we need more of in fintech collaboration today?
I think Sweden always been very open for collaborating and discussing things. But what I see sometimes happen is that those relationships are not as long term. We try out some POCs and it stops at that. And I think startups really need established players to really commit in building a long-term relationship and also helping the startup carry through. I would like to see more of that. Open discussion between the regulators and fintechs. If you've been trying to get regulated in Sweden, it's quite hard to get an advice on what to do best. It's more of a country's position where they don't give advice. They just kind of tell you you're compliant or not. And it's lacking this ability to bounce back of different solutions, how to do this better.
Makes sense.
More of that as well.
More of that. Thank you so much for the insightful conversation. Thank you, Lana.
Thank you.